The Bulls take on the Pistons, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off on Wednesday. The Chicago Bulls are minus 3.5, totals 220. And if you want to see which one of these free YouTube picks on this channel that I'm actually betting on personally, there's only one way to do that, and that's to sign up for a membership on my website at brockpage.com. We're 6-0 in our last 6 NFL tier package picks on brockpage.com. We're also 3-0 in our last 3 college football tier package picks on that very same site. We currently have over 840 members who are signed up and active on that page. And once again, if you want to see which one of these free YouTube picks on this channel that I'm actually betting on personally, there's only one way to do that, and that's to sign up for a membership on my website. And once again, that's brockpage.com. Now, when it comes to this particular NBA matchup here today, the Bulls actually won 5 out of their final 7 contests of the 2020 season to pretty much end on a high note. They also went 5-2 against the spread in those games. Zach LaVine scored over 27 points a night in the regular season last year, 5 rebounds, 4 assists for the guard. Meanwhile, Nikola Vucevic averaged 21.5 points a game himself, along with 11.5 rebounds. Now, the Bulls have a pretty solid core group of guys, and they could potentially find themselves winning some ball games this year if they remain healthy. Now, they're taking on a Detroit team who tanked their way to a 1-9 record in their final 10 contests of 2020. Cunningham, Hayes, and Bay, they're all questionable for the opener. Detroit's also taken the loss in 7 out of their last 10 meetings with Chicago. Now, total-wise, Detroit's 7-3 to the under in their last 10 meetings with the Bulls. I'm going to lean toward Chicago minus 3.5 and the under 220. Next ball game, it is going to be Pacers versus the Hornets, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Charlotte's minus 2, totals 225. Now, Charlotte finished their season on a 6-game losing streak last year, 2-8 straight up in their final 10. And when it comes to this particular ball game here, Hayward, Rozier, and Bridges, they're all listed as questionable to play on Wednesday. Now, those 3 players combined for over 52 points a night collectively last season, so that can certainly be a big blow, even if one of them sit out. Now, they're taking on a Pacer team who covered a bunch of numbers down the home stretch in 2020. Indiana finished the season 7-2 against the spread in their final 9. And they're also 7-3 straight up in their last 10 meetings with Charlotte. Malcolm Brogdon scored over 21 points a game for the Pacers last year, 5 rebounds, 5 assists for the guard. Meanwhile, Domantas Sabonis averaged over 20 a night himself. The Pacers went 7-3 against the spread in their last 10 meetings with Charlotte as well. When it comes to the total in this one, 6 out of these teams' last 10 meetings fell under the posted number. I'm going to lean toward the Pacers plus 2 and the under 225. Next matchup, Celtics versus the Knicks, 7:30 East. The New York Knicks are minus 1, numbers 216. Now, the Knicks were the league leaders in fewest points allowed for most of the year, 6-4 against the number in their last 10 meetings with Boston. Julius Randle scored over 24 points a night along with double-digit rebounds. Meanwhile, R.J. Barrett averaged nearly 18 points a game himself, along with 5 boards and 3 assists. Now, they're taking on a Boston team who lost 4 of 5 to Brooklyn to end their season last year. A bunch of points they gave up in that series. When it comes to the number in this one, 7 out of Boston's last 10 meetings with New York fell under the total. I'm going to lean toward New York minus 1 and the under 216. Next matchup, Wizards, Raptors, 7:30 Eastern tip. Toronto's minus 2.5, totals 219. And despite their recent success against Washington, Toronto really took a step back last season as an organization as they finished the year losers of 9 out of their final 10. Now, Pascal Siakam's out indefinitely with a shoulder. He was the team's leading scorer last year. They're taking on a playoff qualifying Washington team last season. They scored a bunch of points in that playoff series with Philadelphia as well. This Washington team can certainly, they certainly have the ability to score points. Bradley Beal averaged over 31 points a night along with 4 rebounds and 4 assists. Davis Bertans also scored nearly a dozen a night himself, along with a couple of boards. Now, total-wise, Washington's 8-2 to the over in their last 10 contests against Toronto. I'm going to lean toward Washington plus 2.5 and the over 219. Next matchup, Cavs, Grizzlies, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Memphis is minus 7.5, totals 216. Now, the Grizzlies' second leading scorer last season, Dylan Brooks, he's going to be sitting this one out here Wednesday. He's out indefinitely with a hand. The Grizzlies have also failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10 meetings with Cleveland. And speaking of the Cavs, they certainly have some pieces in place to be competitive here this year. Colin Sexton averaged nearly 24.5 points a game last season, along with 3 rebounds and 4 assists. And of course, guys, I'm not saying they're going to be good. I'm not saying they're going to be great. But I think they will be able to be competitive against the number. Anyway, Darius Garland, he dropped over 17 a night himself last year as well. The Cavs have held Memphis to just 99 points a game in their last 10 meetings. When it comes to the scoring in this one, 8 out of those very 10 meetings did stay under the total. I'm going to lean toward Cleveland plus 7.5 and the under 216. Next contest, Rockets, T-Wolves, 8 o'clock East. Minnesota's minus 5.5, totals 227. Now, Minnesota does have the ability to put up some points. Karl Anthony Towns, he scored over 24.5 points a game last year. The center also averaged over 10.5 rebounds and 4.5 assists a night. Meanwhile, Malik Beasley scored nearly 20 points a game himself. They're taking on a Houston team who struggled to score and struggled to stop people from scoring. The Rockets finished the year losers of 8 out of their final 9. They lost a ton of games last year, didn't win many. Houston also went 60% to the under in their last 10 meetings with Minnesota. I'm going to lean toward the Timberwolves minus 5.5 and the under 227. Next contest, Sixers, Pelicans, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The Sixers are minus 4.5, totals 226. Now, Philadelphia's done a real nice job with New Orleans in recent meetings. 7-3 straight up in their last 10 contests against the Pelicans. They actually held New Orleans to just 104 points per contest during that 10-game stretch. Joel Embiid averaged 28.5 points a game in the regular season, along with double-digit rebounds. Tobias Harris also scored 19.5 a night, along with 6 boards. Now, if Philadelphia can keep Ben Simmons off the court this year, they should improve greatly. Keep him off the court. It's better for you. Now, they're taking on a Pelicans team who's got a banged-up leader in Zion Williamson. Brandon Ingram's also been listed as questionable with a knee. The Pelicans lost 6 out of their final 8 contests of 2020 to really ensure that they would not make the playoffs. Now, total-wise, 7 out of these teams' last 10 meetings did fall under the total. Give me Philadelphia minus 4.5 and the under 226. Next contest, Magic, Spurs, 8:30 Eastern tip-off. San Antonio's minus 5.5, totals through 213. San Antonio's held Orlando to just 96 points a game in their last 10 meetings. This healthy San Antonio roster is also led by DeJounte Murray, who averaged over 15.5 points a game, along with 7 rebounds and 5 assists last year. Derek White also scored 15 points a night himself, along with 3 boards and 3.5 assists. The Spurs have taken 6 out of their last 10 meetings with Orlando. And speaking of the Magic, looks like they're pretty much rebuilding once again. The Magic had one of the worst scoring teams in the league last year. They also failed to cover the point spread in 6 out of their last 10 meetings with the Spurs. I'm going to lean towards San Antonio minus 5.5 and the under 213. Next contest, Thunder versus the Jazz, 9 o'clock East. Utah's minus 12, totals 221. Utah's got arguably one of the best rosters in the NBA right now. Having said that, though, they have struggled with OKC in recent meetings, and they've definitely done a poor job of covering the point spread against them. Utah went just 2-8 against the number in their last 10 meetings with OKC, and they averaged only 106 points per contest offensively. Rudy Gay's out indefinitely. Eric Paschall's questionable with a finger. They're taking on a Thunder team who's actually got some key components for winning some ball games this year. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he scored over 23.5 points a night last year, along with 4 rebounds and 5 assists. Meanwhile, Lou Dort, he scored 14 points a game along with 3 rebounds as well. And of course, those stats were on a pretty bad OKC team, so good work out of those guys. When it comes to the number, OKC went 7-3 to the under in their last 10 against Utah, giving me the Thunder plus 12 and the under 221. Next game, Nuggets, Suns, 10 o'clock Eastern start time. The Suns are -6, totals 223.5. Phoenix literally owned the Nuggets in the 2020 postseason. 4-game sweep of Denver in that series. Phoenix has also averaged over 115 points a game in their last 10 meetings with the Nuggets. Devin Booker averaged over 27 points a night in the postseason. 5 rebounds, 4.5 assists for D-Book. Meanwhile, Chris Paul scored nearly 20 points a night in the playoffs as well. 3.5 boards and 8 assists for CP3. Now they're taking on a Denver team who's still going to work without Jamal Murray, still rehabbing that knee. The Nuggets also struggled defensively at times last season, especially with defensive field goal percentage. Now total-wise, 7 out of these teams' last 10 meetings did get over the line. I'm going to lean toward Phoenix -6 in the over 223.5. With that, guys, now it's time for our next and final matchup. It is going to be Kings versus the Blazers, 10 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Portland's -5, numbers 231.5. Portland's taken 7 out of their last 10 meetings with Sacramento. 120 points a game they averaged during that stretch. Dame Lillard scored over 34 points a game in the postseason last year. 4 rebounds, 10 assists for Dame. Meanwhile, CJ McCollum scored over 20.5 points a night in the playoffs himself. They're taking on a Sacramento club who gave up a ton of points last year, played very poor defensively, and they also failed to cover in 6 out of their last 10 meetings with Portland. Now, total-wise, Sacramento went 60% to the over in their last 10 contests with the Blazers. I'm going to lean toward Portland -5 and the over 231.5. And with that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap. Powered to you by my website at brockpage.com, where we are 6-0 in our last 6 NFL tier package picks on that site. I'm going to lean toward the Bulls -3.5 under 220. Indiana +2 under 225. New York Knicks -1 under 216. Washington +2.5 over 219. Cleveland +7.5 under 216. Minnesota -5.5 under 227. Philadelphia -4.5 under 226. San Antonio -5.5 under 213. OKC +12 under 221. Phoenix -6 over 223.5. Before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 6-0 in our last 6 NFL tier package picks on brockpage.com. We're also 3-0 in our last 3 college football tier package picks on that very same website. I'm going to lean toward Portland -5 in the over 231.5. And with that, guys, now it's time for our shout out of the day. And that's going to go to Carl Johnson, who said yesterday, bet. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on brockpage.com. Now, if you guys do end up getting a membership here today on my website, just keep in mind, you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a membership here today on brockpage.com, you are going to get access to that content all the way through the end of October. I always tell folks the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. Most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. With that said, guys, happy Tuesday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.